Hey guys, so today I'm doing a story time video. I did a couple story times in a Q&A a couple weeks ago, and then I did a get ready with me and a Bumble date story time. You guys actually really enjoyed them, and I asked if you wanted to see more in the future, and you said yes. So I've never really been a huge story time person on YouTube. So I have like all of these stories that I could actually tell. So today I'm gonna tell you guys a story about my freshman year in college, which was now 4 years ago, when my friend and I were actually roofied at a frat party. And to be honest, what I want you to take away from this video is you need to be smart when you're out, and when they tell you not to just pick up drinks that are sitting there, you need to actually listen, because once you've had a little bit of alcohol in you, that like mindset of being smart starts to fade away. So just keep that in mind while listening to this entire story, because this was 100% our fault. So I'm just gonna start off with a little background of who I was freshman year. In high school, I never drank alcohol. I think the first time I ever had alcohol was probably my senior year at prom, and I didn't even have that much, but I like got like a little tipsy because my tolerance literally didn't exist. So that was like my first interaction with alcohol, and then I never really drank again until freshman year of college. So unfortunately, with that being said, I went into college having zero tolerance and trying to figure out how much I could drink and what I could drink and where I was getting this alcohol was just an ongoing struggle. So freshman year, I was drinking brunettes.
All around me are familiar faces.
So I'm gonna tell you guys the story about the night that my friend Kirsten and I, we're not friends anymore, but she was my best friend freshman year, and we went to a Jewish frat party. So there's a Jewish frat on campus. I don't know what their name is, so we just call them the Jewish frat because I don't know their letters or anything. I'm not into Greek life. I don't care that much, so I don't know. We're gonna call it the Jewish frat party. So that is the party where the roofie situation happened. But before that, we went to one other party, and then we went to another party after this Jewish frat party. So the first party that we went to, it was kind of like a pregame situation. It was friends of friends that I'd met, some friends from Project Serve, which is like a community service thing that I did freshman year, and that's how I met like a lot of people. So it was a bunch of those people, and then a lot of people who were in the frat Theta Chi. It's funny because I actually know the majority of them now, which is so odd, but I know the earlier years because I was friends with most of them freshman, sophomore, and then half a junior year. So I knew the people at the first pregame that we were at. So it was just like, not too many people, probably like 20 people. We were just sitting around drinking. Their house was really, really close to campus. It's right past Cardiff. So it was like within walking distance because I lived in the Towers my freshman year. So we started off there. My friend Kirsten and I were drinking Pinnacle, I believe, because I think I'd switched by then. I was either drinking Pinnacle or brunettes, I don't know. It was vodka. That's all that you really need to know. So I was drinking something clear. And when you're drinking something clear, you don't want to then start mixing with darker alcohols. So this is where things just went awry. So Kirsten and I found a jug of Captain Morgan at this first party, and we split it. So the entire jug wasn't full, but if you've seen a jug of Captain Morgan, it's like this high and like that wide. So there's a lot of alcohol. So it was probably half full. So her and I split like what was probably the equivalent of like 6 shots. So we were very, very drunk, but it was like we were still in control, and we were aware that we drank this alcohol. So it's not like weird that we were feeling this way. So we drank that, and then we moved on to the next party. So I think we walked there because everything was within walking distance freshman year because it was all house parties. I didn't have a fake, so I can go uptown. So the thing to do was just do house and apartment parties that was in the area. So we walked to the Jewish frat party, did not know a soul there, but I was there with Kirsten, my friend Reiko, Brandon, I think Sandra was there, and like a couple other people from Project Serve, because that was like my group of people. So we all went there together. We'd all been drinking, so it wasn't like anyone was really sober at this point. But we got there, we were like taking pictures, everything was fine, and then Kirsten and I like went off to the side and we were trying to look for drinks. So at frat parties in Towson, The only thing that is available if you don't know the people hosting the frat party is Natty Boh. So I will never drink another Natty in my whole entire life because it tastes like warm pee to me, and I've had too many bad experiences with it, and I just don't like beer in general. It makes me feel like I need to throw up the second I take a sip, so naturally I stay away from it. But freshman year, I drank a ton of Natty. So we went over and we were trying to find any beer that was left at that point because we were just like scavenging just to make sure that we were keeping up with everyone else. Never a good idea. So we went to the kitchen and we found 2 beers unopened. It was fine. So we like grabbed them, we went into the other room, we met back up with our friends, we were talking and stuff, and then we put our drinks down. This was the mistake. So we're in a group with our friends, so you'd think it would be okay to put your drink down on the table and like turn around for half a second, but apparently it wasn't, because later we went back and we were drinking our drink. It tastes fine. Usually you can't taste, like there's different types of roofies, but most of them are flavorless, so you can't really taste the difference. And if you've been drinking, alcohol doesn't taste like anything at that point. Like I've had nights where I was drinking so much that vodka now tasted like water. So after a while you don't even like really taste it. So there was no difference. It just still tasted like beer to me. So her and I were drinking, we were totally fine. And then that's all I remember. I remember taking a sip of that drink and I don't remember anything else. So to my knowledge, what happened next was we went to another house party and we were only there for like half an hour. We got there from walking through campus because I think it was on Burke. So I'm not quite sure where the Jewish frat was, but I saw a snap of us walking through campus on my Snapchat story. So apparently we were walking through campus to get to the last party, but I do not remember any of that. So this is where stuff gets kind of crazy, because Kirsten remembers a little bit of that last party, which is how I knew that we went there, but after that she doesn't remember anything, and she remembers feeling really, really weird. That night I got home, went to bed, I guess. My 2 roommates, Elaine and Claire, were in bed because they didn't go out. I wasn't really friends with them yet because this was at the very beginning of freshman year, so I hadn't like made a true relationship with my roommates yet. So this is probably the worst way for me to introduce myself as who I am as a freshman to my roommates, because I left my dorm and I went outside. So I will tell you what I remember from that process. I remember walking from the elevator to the outside doors, walking outside, and then being confused when I got there, realizing I didn't have my glasses on, so I'm completely blind. I didn't have my shoes. I didn't have my 1 card because obviously I was not prepared. I was basically sleepwalking out of my dorm. And so I come back in, and at night past 10 o'clock there's a security guard there. So this was 5 o'clock in the morning, which is insane. I come back in, I like knock on the door, and the officer looks really, really confused, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't have any of my stuff with me, and I don't have my glasses, and I don't know how or why I'm outside right now. And he was like, okay, like, what's your name? Like, do you live here? I was like, yes. Like, I told him my name. I was like, I'm not quite sure what's going on, basically. I was just very, very confused. And at this point, I'm sure I was sober because it was like the middle of the night, but I was still like very like foggy in the head. So he was like, have you been drinking tonight? I was like, I had some drinks, but that was like earlier. Keep in mind, I'm underage. I was 17 years old. I have a late birthday, so I was 17 years old as a freshman. I wasn't even 18 yet. So he didn't really question me too much with that, and he didn't cite me, but what he did was he then called one of the RA assistants because they needed to be there to help me get into the elevator. So she came down, she scanned me into the elevator, the cop was with me, went back up to my room. I remember walking to my dorm room and then walking inside, and the police officer was like flashing his flashlight in the beds of Elaine and Claire, and he was like, hey, like, are you guys like asleep? And they're like, yeah, like, what's what's going on? And he was like, oh, like your roommate was like walking outside and she doesn't really know what was going on. Did you guys go out with her tonight? And they were like, no, like we stayed in. Is everything okay? And he was like, yeah, like she's fine. So I thank him, I apologize, I go to bed. Next morning, I wake up with the worst hangover mixed with like I don't even know of my entire life. I threw up like 3 times, which was weird because I never throw up when I drink. So the symptoms of this hangover were very different from a normal hangover, which is why I knew that it was weird. And I called Kirsten and she said she felt the same exact way. So we were like doing like Google research and trying to figure out what was going on. And we were like, I think someone put something in our drinks, because both of us felt like that and everyone else was fine. And mostly everyone had the same amount of alcohol as us. And it was weird where we blacked out pretty much at the point in which we were drinking the beers that probably had something in them. And then we don't remember much after that point. Like she remembers maybe 20 minutes more than I do, which is odd. So what followed that was me getting in trouble. So I thought I was fine because the officer didn't cite me that night, but I got an email from the school basically saying that I would have to pay this fee or go to this alcohol consultation thing, because if you get in trouble on campus and it's alcohol related, they make you take a class or like take a test about it so that you can learn about it, or you go to a counseling session. So naturally I was like freaking out because I was under 18, so my parents got this email too. And I don't even know if I've ever told them the full story of this because I was just embarrassed at this point. And it's also really hard to be like, oh, it wasn't my fault, when it basically was my fault because I put my drink down. So I never really got into it. I was just like, yeah, I didn't really have that much to drink. I'm not quite sure what happened. It was weird. So low-key lied. I had to appeal the whole charge, which luckily got me out of the fine. I like typed up like a 2-page letter basically saying what had happened, and then they called me in for like an interview session, and the lady just said that she didn't believe that I was roofied and that she thought that I was lying, which I think is honestly ridiculous because the way that I explained everything, it's obvious that there was something in my drink and it wasn't just because I was drinking something. And I also left out the fact that I drank quite a bit before, so my story 100% would have sounded like something went wrong, and she just was having none of it at all. So she only dropped the charges and I still had to go to a counseling session for alcohol. So that was really weird. The lady cleared me after one session. She was like, I think you're fine, just like be careful. And I was like, yeah, I know, like I know I was just not okay, and I didn't realize that just that split second something could possibly happen. So this frat does have a very sketchy reputation, and I didn't know that until I went there. You kind of start to learn as you go to different frats on campus what type of frat they are. People say that they've been roofied at their parties before and they've used like date rape drugs, etc, etc. So it's really not shocking that this happened, but just be very careful with your drinks and be careful with your alcohol consumption, because things can sneak up on you really fast, especially if you are going into college and you've never drank before. Even if you have drank before, you probably haven't drank the amount that you're going to drink in college, if that is something that you're going to be doing and something that you're into, because peer pressure is a real thing and things escalate very quickly, and you probably didn't eat as much as you were supposed to eat, and when everyone else around you is drinking, you kind of lose track of time and how much you have been drinking. So you can end up in a position like mine. And unfortunately, that happened on campus, me leaving my dorm room, because if I had never left, then I never would have been in trouble for what happened. The only good thing that came out of it was I did say what frat party I was at, so they were looked into a little bit. I don't know if that went anywhere, but at least they were aware. I don't think they're on campus right now. You gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself, my friends. So that's it for this video. If you guys did enjoy the little story, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. If you have any thoughts about the story or have any situations that were kind of similar, let me know in the comments down below because I'm very interested to read about them, and I'll see you guys in my next video. I love you.